I thought you were gonna do one.
Go ahead.
Hi everybody, welcome back to the Dip. It's been a few weeks for us, but not for y'all.
Mm-hmm.
So we're very excited to be
Yeah,
back.
it kind of has been a few
Actually, it
weeks.
has been a few weeks.
It's been
Yeah.
a few weeks for them too.
When did you post the last one?
Like before we left for Christmas.
Oh, so it has been a while. For
Yeah,
you.
it's been a while for
It's okay.
everyone else.
Even longer for
We're so
us.
sorry.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Honestly, it's my fault.
No, it's not your fault. It's like a group effort.
True.
It's like a group thing. So this is Open Space, Brave Space, the Dip podcast. I'm Nolan.
I'm Angelica.
And I'm Edgar.
Yeah, and so today's topic is about representation in the media. Do you guys feel well represented in the media?
I think it's gotten better since I was younger.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
But not as much as it should be.
Yeah,
No.
I agree.
Okay.
Not just like a Latino Mexican, but just in like overall. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking. I wasn't thinking like too deep, but I was
Yeah.
thinking like overall. As
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Like, what do you mean overall?
Like overall, POC wise.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
that's how you feel too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I definitely have felt like underrepresented.
Of course.
But then I heard this quote from Bretman Rock one time. And
Oh.
He was accepting an award for something.
I love Brittany.
And he goes up there and he goes, I was gonna lie to y'all and say that I'm the first like Filipino that I've seen like out here. And he was like, but that would be a fucking lie because like I grew up watching myself on TV because my mom was watching like her specific shows in the Filipino language, which like I kind of relate to as well. You know, like I
Me
grew
too.
up watching my grandma's novellas, and so like it felt like if I wasn't finding myself in the media, there's other places that I can look for myself in the media.
Mm-hmm.
Am I being well represented in the pop culture? No. But I think that there is representation like in like the screens. I think people just aren't looking for it.
I agree.
They don't
with
see
that.
them like they're thinking this idea of like, oh, I don't see myself on the Pop Star magazine. It's like, well, like you're not looking hard enough, I think.
Yeah.
Because there was even like these little bits and pieces of like Selena Gomez and Demi Lovato were like super huge when we were younger too.
Mhm.
And I saw them like in me. So I don't know. I feel just like a little bit indifferent about it. Being like, I feel like I did see a lot of myself. And then also like the Selena movie too. I was like,
Yeah.
that bitch literally has my last name. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
No, I agree with that because I feel like if you, growing up, if you're known to like watch those kind of things like that have people with your representation, you're like, yes, I am represented like overall. But I think it's other people like they don't tend to look for that
Yeah.
kind of thing,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's how I feel. I mean, it's just like it's out there and people just aren't looking for it. And I
Right.
think that's another thing about like queer representation too,
Mhm.
is that it's not like trending on Twitter, but it's out there. And people feel like they have to constantly create new things. And I'm like, why don't we just like uplift the voices that have already been there? Like, I remember this one time, it was the first time I watched Call Me By Your Name, which, trigger warning, pedophiles.
Oh my god.
But it was, at the time, that was like the first like queer movie that I
Yeah,
saw.
yeah.
That was like cutesy and lovey. And I was only 16 when I watched it. And so I felt like represented in a way because it was like just a gay boy being a gay boy kind of vibes. And then that allowed me to be more introduced into other genres of like there's art films. Like European is so queer coded. Like European films are so queer coded and so much stuff that you just have to like search for it. So I'm like in this weird fine line of like oh, I'm not out there. I'm like, well, because you're just looking on Disney Channel. You're just looking on this. You're just looking on that. You're just looking for yourself on your timeline, but you're not like trying to explore other genres of art
Yeah.
and other genres of media to try and find yourself as well. I don't know, because there's like a weird fine line of like I think that there should be more in mainstream media, but there is still a heavy influence of Latin culture and of queer culture and of African American and Black BIPOC culture everywhere. It's just that people aren't looking for it. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
it's not being seen. What do you think about that?
Yeah. So that's all I watched growing up was like all like the Hispanic channels because
Yeah.
we didn't know English.
Yeah.
I didn't
Also,
know
you're a
English
liar.
in it.
You were like, I didn't see myself at all. at the
Well,
beginning of
I
the
meant
film.
like whenever we went to like movie theaters and stuff.
Mhm.
That's what I was talking
I was
about.
talking about that.
It's
Okay.
like, oh yeah, like I went to go see a movie, but I was like, The Tooth Fairy, and we had Dwayne the Rock Johnson and what's her name? Anyways, doesn't matter. But then it wasn't until like, well, because people, the reason that like I really enjoyed this topic was because like Eugenio Derbez and Jaime Camil like talk about this, like going from Mexico over here was like really hard, and like trying to get just in anything was also really hard.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's why I was
Mhm.
like, let my men in, let them in. But yeah,
Let them in.
And
let
then-
them in.
And then
But-
I have this like weird feeling too, because mainstream media will always paint specifically Latin American people as this one specific
Yeah.
stereotype.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't know if I want to be represented by
because
those
Right.
organizations.
exactly, they'll just like I 100% agree with that.
Yeah,
Because I don't know. I don't want to like victim blame or anything here, but sometimes when people are trying to create opportunities for themselves, they're trying to find opportunity in the wrong places.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's like sometimes you have to create your own space to be well represented by what you think the standards of what you want to be represented by.
Mhm. No, it makes perfect sense. Yeah, I agree with
I
that.
don't know. It just feels like, I don't know. It feels, I don't know.
I mean,
Just, like, a
it does
little-
suck that to be in like the mainstream, it has to be like, oh, like you have to be presented this way, or else like the project won't do good or whatever. And it's always about the money, and it's never about like
Mhm.
correct or proper representation of whatever they
Yeah,
need
yeah.
to be doing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I just want like genuinely death to like mainstream media because all of it is just so overdone and so repetitive
Yeah.
and obviously targeted for one specific type of person.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so for us to want to be a part of that even perpetuates a stereotype that it's okay what they're doing, you know?
mhm.
Yeah.
I think it's gotten way past the point of let's change it. I think it needs to be completely demolished and made anew by new faces and new people. Because if we ask the old white guy who is, you know, been making movies for years upon years upon years to add more people into said movie, then we're just giving more praise and like more exposure for their works upon like all the things that they've already done.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So I think we need to start creating more opportunities and not trying to rely on the idea of old opportunities fitting us into their box when that
Mhm.
box was never made for somebody like us. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Mhm.
No, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Because it's weird. I'm like, yes, I would love to be a part of, like you were talking about, Wednesday.
Oh, yeah.
I would love, sure, who doesn't want to be a part of a Tim Burton film?
Mhm.
But at the same time, it almost feels like why do I don't know what I'm trying to say here. Like like why does there have to why is there still the first blank in 2023 or like 2022?
Yeah, exactly.
And so I'm so glad Miss Thing is getting her flowers right now. But why are we even giving any time and effort for Tim Burton right now? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I agree. Like this should have happened like a long time.
It should have
ago.
happened a long time ago, and so he should have been kind of just pushed aside a long time ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I think that there's artists out there who are doing these like amazing films that have gothic themes to them that are filled with people of color,
Mhm.
but people tend to only look for Tim Burton when they think of gothic ideologies, which just gives him more praise in all the works that he's done. Because the moment we start talking about Wednesday, they're like, oh, Tim Burton. And then they look up all of the other films that are completely just coded in white people.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it almost feels like we should stop. I sound like such a radicalist right now, but we should stop like giving a chance for people to like redeem themselves. Like why can't we just like give new voices
Yeah.
a chance to like interpret that story
Mhm.
over like a Tim Burton, I guess you would say.
Yeah. That I also think I think that alongside with why didn't they do this in the beginning? Like, why is it just now that it's happening? You know,
Mm-hmm.
that's how I think about it too, as well. But
Besides that, how do you guys feel about representation in theater?
I only look for people in theater that are POC or that are part of the queer community because
Uh-huh.
that's what I'm drawn to.
Yeah.
I know there's still a lot of like, of course, like white actors and actresses that are still more ahead, but I don't know. I still want to be like that pick me. I'm like I only look for underground people, but like technically I like do because they interest me more than the people that are on the top right now.
I agree. I agree. There's this one person who's currently playing May in & Juliet on Broadway. Their name is Justin David Sullivan. They go by he, she, they. They are playing a character that like I've always wanted to see be represented on the stage. So, do you know the story of like & Juliet? So it's like what happened if Juliet didn't kill herself at the end of Romeo and Juliet, and Juliet goes and like lives her own life.
Yes.
There's basically this side romantic like relationship happening between two characters. One of them being May, who is specifically written for people who are non-binary to play. Has specifically been played by AMAP people, like assigned male at birth people, so far. That's just because I think it's what the director has intended, like this like femboy kind of feeling to the character. Has specifically been played by non-binary people so far, who are AMAB. But I think that's just so lovely to me too. And that's another representation of like new opportunities being created instead of like us waiting for these old ideologies to like make up for
Die
something.
down. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that they're awesome. Do you have any ideas or people you can think of?
So theater wise, so I again like when I'm looking for stuff, I do try to look for like POC people and like authors and stuff, just because I haven't found a story where like I've always wanted to find a story where I'm like, oh, like this monologue, like I connect to it like on a like deeper level, not like a like yeah, I can get into character, you know, but like it's like I really want to like connect with material, and so I've been like looking for like Hispanic families or like first gen families or stuff like that, and so like I haven't found any yet, so that's like the only like thing that I could probably talk about. And like with musicals, like it wasn't until recently that I started like looking at musicals and stuff, but I know there was like a big thing with like Hamilton and like how they were casting and stuff like that. And I'm
Can you explain that to people who might not know?
Oh yeah, so I don't even know the full story. I just remember they were talking about it, but they were like Hamilton wasn't casting, or they were casting people that
the cast of Hamilton disregarding 2 ensemble members and 1 principal character. They were looking specifically, and they said, for non-white people to portray these white characters, which is something that we actually talked about in my musical theater directing class today, is that like I don't get this idea of realism within musical theater when musical theater worlds are not realistic themselves. Like who the fuck is just like singing out of like their ass just like out of nowhere? So why are we holding on to these like realism and realistic ideologies and like what a character should look like when it's literally musical theater? So yeah, that's like the whole idea that Lin played into, is that he was like, I don't want first of all, that's Lin's whole idea. Is like I'm casting people of color,
and I love that.
I
Shit, I'm like, yes.
And so his idea was to have all of these people being portrayed by non-white people specifically, is what it was, and that was just like revolutionary at the time, because that was like dialogue and verbiage that was never put onto like a casting list as saying non-white people. And I bet you that was like a bit of a shock to some white people at the time. To be like,
when did Hamilton come out?
2016. But it was in was on Broadway in 2016, but the previews were happening in 2014, 15. And so the original casting for it happened in like 2014, probably late 2013. And I know like Lynn was toying with the idea of Hamilton since Obama was president. So like in 2012 and stuff like that.
Because I saw a video of him of like talk about it with like Chris Jackson.
And there's a video of him performing it in front of them at the White House. There's like a video of him doing the opening number, but just him himself for the Obamas. It's just really, really cool.
Hell yeah.
I don't know what I'm talking about. Oh, this is what I'm going to talk about. This is one of the things I used to say. I'm like, I'm not being devil's advocate at all because I don't get it. Like, bet you there is a bit of frustration for, like, let's say white cis males specifically to see a casting that says non-white cis people because they're in this world that was like made for them their entire lives. And in just the past couple of years, they're like all of a sudden went to this complete shift of like, no, you're actually not invited to certain spaces. I think that might be like extremely frustrating. Do I give a fuck? No. But like, there has to be something behind it. I'm like, okay, I get why y'all are going crazy right now. Because like, if everything was taken away from me that was promised to me, I'd probably be a little upset too.
Yeah.
So, what do you guys think about that? This like might not pertain to the topic, but like, if y'all weren't a person of color, would you care this much?
Like about proper representation?
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
I think so too.
You think so?
I think so.
Yeah. I think it also would depend on what kind of like ideologies you grew up with.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Sure.
Yeah.
But like, if you were just a white person.
Yeah.
Like just right
and
now.
you didn't have, if you didn't grow up like in a people of color family, like, do you think you would care as much?
I kind of still want to say yes.
I kind of still want to say yes as well.
Just because like that's just who I am as a person. It's like I'm a people person, and like I want things not done to be correctly, but like proper representation, or like people to like, because even if I was a white person and I knew everything that happened in the past, I like the bad stuff that they had to go through.
Yeah, true.
Like if I learned about that, I would still be like, oh well, like I as a person, as a white person, I'm gonna take my privilege and do as much as I can to help them out.
Exactly right.
I just like I love helping people out.
So
I think I'd still like do my best.
Yeah.
So do you think like that no representation for people like us is unexcusable?
Do I think that no person? Oh, sorry.
Do you think that like the amount of representation and the lack thereof for people like us, for people any global majority, do you think that is unexcusable?
I mean, I know how times were, and I hate that saying where it's like, well, you know the times back in the day or whatever. So like, I just, yeah, I think it's inexcusable. I'm like, people were there. I'm sure they showed up, and y'all still chose not to choose them just because of how their outward experience, how they looked on the outside, instead of like giving them a chance. Like, because I don't think like you should discredit someone for how they look, which we kind of touched on whenever we were, I don't remember what episode it was, but I was talking about like lovers, and people are like, oh well, like they don't fit this mold, but like they can still do that role. Like they will still get, and they'll work hard, even if not harder, but you just will never give them a chance because of how they look on the outside. And so I'm like, why are you gonna judge? It's like judging a book on its cover. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Do you think it's unexcusable?
Yeah, well, I think you were kind of talking about this yesterday when how you used to believe, and I still kind of think that now. Like, we went probably not the same schooling, but everybody has gone through schooling. Everybody knows the history about what has happened throughout the past, and once you get into like the field that you want to go in, you learn more about like the history of that field, just like everything in general about it. And if you knowingly know all that stuff, but you still continue to disregard everything that you have been taught, everything that has been shown to you, that's unexcusable. Like, you know that it's not good.
Exactly. Yep.
So, What about you?
Cool.
What about you?
I mean, I also think it's unexcusable. Sometimes I do catch myself being like, would I care this much if I wasn't a person of color?
Mhm.
Would I care this much if I wasn't a queer person?
Right.
And like you guys were both explaining of being like, yes, of course I would care because, I've always been this type of person, but like, I feel like your caring ideologies have to do with the fact that you grew up in a person of color, like, household. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think the fact that you do put like other people for you is, an inherited trait probably about you. So like, not saying that you wouldn't care, but like, would those aspects of you be
As intense.
if you were not growing up in the exact same household?
I think if I didn't grow up in POC, I think maybe the passion behind it wouldn't be as intense because I wouldn't have had to think about it the whole time that I was growing up. I wouldn't have had to worry about it the whole time that I was just going throughout my day. So I think probably the intensity behind everything wouldn't be as tough.
And I ask that too because I catch myself in the moments that I have felt privileged, in a sense, not caring about, like, let's say for instance when I was specifically just male presenting in the roles that I wanted, and I was getting these characters, and I would hear my female presenting like co-stars or actors or whatever complain about or speak on how they weren't getting a fair amount of like treatment because there was like 5 guys and like 20 girls. Do you know what I mean? And I would find myself being like, oh, sucks to suck. And so I question like if it was like the flip side of things, like if I like, because I have caught myself not caring. I think that's just like me also trying to like digest all of the things that I could have done wrong to people in the past, because that's the only way to like progress as a society, is to like get a grasp on like the things that you've done wrong so that you can help like progress the world. So I mean, I just asked that question because sometimes I'm like, maybe they just don't get it. Maybe they literally do not care. And that's why that they don't do it.
I think it goes back to like what Angelica was saying, where it's like they grew up and they learned the same things we did, and they still knowingly go about their day and not give it a second thought. That's where I'm like, get your leg, girl. I don't remember.
Intermission, little break.
You see that? A white woman getting all up in our business for no goddamn reason.
She was sweet.
God, she was.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sure everyone who's done something wrong to every person of color was sometimes sweet. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What were we talking about?
I don't and something Angelica said, and I was like, yeah, it goes back to that. But I don't
did
know.
you finish?
I think I did. I'll say it again just in case.
Okay, go ahead.
Just in case.
It goes back to what Angelica said earlier, where it was like, we all went to school. We learned about now there's those laws where they're trying not to teach all about that stuff, and I'm like, what the fuck? That's so stupid. I'm like, we're people. They made mistakes in the past. We should learn and grow from them, not like try to.
And the worst part about all of that is that they know exactly what they're doing.
Exactly.
Like,
that's the thing. It goes back to that. They're knowingly doing that.
They know exactly what they're doing, and they're like, well, if we don't talk about it, then it's almost as if it doesn't exist.
Exactly.
You're like,
no, I remember the.
Hey, what? Like, okay, I mean, no, honestly, facts. Because if we don't talk about it, it doesn't exist.
Oh gosh.
That's history erasure. And it's kind of insane, and it's almost. Let's pull this back to what we're actually talking about: representation in media. I think that is like those two are connected in the sense of, I feel like this whole like Tim Burton thing and casting her as Wednesday. I'm blanking on her name. What is her name?
Jenna
Ortega.
Jenna Ortega.
Jenna Ortega.
I cannot
Now that
believe
you're
you
saying this,
forgot
but I
my
love you.
Latinx queen
Yeah.
name.
I'm sorry, like I said, I have 30,000 other Latinx actors that I'm thinking about all the time. So, but
Sorry.
it's almost like erasure of like, oh my God, Tim Burton, he cast like people of color in his thing. Yes,
Yeah.
let's go for it. And I'm like, I didn't forget about all the other shit that you did.
Literally.
Are you trying to convince me to forget about all the other shit that you did?
Yeah.
And like, because there's like instances of casting where like black people were literally turned away.
Well, no, did y'all hear about Tim Burton's ideology about black people?
Mhm.
And his,
No.
Explain it for
Okay.
people
Yeah.
who might not.
so
Mm.
Tim Burton says that he doesn't cast African Americans because it doesn't fit within his vision of his storyline. Like they don't exist within the vision of his storyline. That he doesn't see them as like a leading like hero kind of character. He only sees them as villains.
What?
Which is why the girl that plays Bianca, you've seen Wednesday?
Yes.
The girl that plays Bianca is kind of like villainized.
What the
Yeah.
heck?
Yeah.
I did not know about that.
Yeah. And then it was just like, I don't know if you noticed, I definitely noticed this, but like after the 4th episode, I think, of Wednesday, the director changed. I don't know if any of y'all caught on that. But like during the credits at the very beginning of the episodes and the very end, the director changed. Like Tim Burton did like the first like 4 episodes, and then after that it was directed by somebody else.
Oh, really?
Oh, I did not know.
I'm
know that
sure
either.
he came up with the storyline and everything, and I'm sure he was definitely a part of it. But those, let me see if I can do some editing and like find out the research, whatever.
Yeah.
But I noticed it that there was like a change in the director, and like Bianca, she does have this whole moment at the end where she helps Wednesday save the day kind of vibes, and I don't know. I literally just, not that I roll my eyes that they're trying to like do something, but it almost like becomes so performative, and they're trying to push like all of those ideas of like, hey, we think people of color are cool down our throats. I'm like, I'm just at a point in my life too that I'm like having this like, I'm tired of people apologizing for things. Like I get it, like people make mistakes, but like I'm tired of people apologizing for things. Like I wish that you just didn't do that in the first place.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of
Well,
vibes.
I also am like, would they have changed their ideas or the way that everything happened if they didn't get like called out in the first place? You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. And also, like, do you think Tim Burton did all of that because he was connected to some of that Netflix bag? Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
Because Netflix is so fucking performative nowadays too. They're like, here's our gay, here's our gay person of color led cupcake baking show where they make queer related desserts. And I'm like, are you joking? That's not what I asked for.
Is that an actual show?
I'm exaggerating, but I swear to God, there probably is something like so similar to what I just.
You know what's so bad about me though?
What?
That you
I
eat that shit
I eat that shit up.
No,
I'm
literally.
like, yes,
That's why, like, when Wednesday, I was like, yeah.
and every time I was like, Jenna Ortega.
Literally. I was like, oh, I loved her since Jane the Virgin.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't really know about. I've seen her, and the thing that people don't talk about her performance in X.
Oh my God, she was so good. Have you seen X?
I have not, but I heard she did really good.
She did do really good.
Because everyone's just talking about Mia Goth, the white girl. I mean, me too though, because Mia Goth is cuckoo lala.
She is cuckoo.
She's good, but literally everyone's like. Jenna Ortega in Wisdom, like, y'all didn't see my girl in X just recently? We ain't gonna talk about
What's
that.
that one show on Disney that she was in?
Oh, Bizarre Bar?
No,
No.
was it Stuck in the Middle?
Stuck in the Middle. I was like,
yeah,
y'all
yeah,
didn't see
yeah.
my girl stuck in the middle on Disney.
No, I recently posted a picture. Oh, let me see if I can put it in there. But I recently posted a picture. She's like at a red carpet. She's like, has her hand on her hip. She has a shirt that's like in like what is it called, comic letters, and like a comic box that says shook with like an exclamation point on it. She's a high tight ponytail. She's wearing these pleather pants.
Oh my God.
She's like,
She said words.
that was my reaction picture on Twitter for like 2 weeks. Like shook. Hold on, there's someone coming.
Oh,
God.
that's good.
I have.
It's so fucking funny. funny.
Do y'all know Dylan? She just revealed her new face.
Oh,
She's so gorgeous.
I did see a face reveal like video coming soon.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
she's gorgeous.
Okay.
I love her.
Nolan.
Speaking of Dylan, I think Dylan, she is a great example of like queer representation.
I was like, this one?
Wait, the caption on that. Look at the caption.
What is it?
Because that's what we're talking about. Wait,
What
let me
is
see it. It says representation because my friend said stats professor is Latina, and I said representation, and it's cunty shrimp. It's cunty shrimp.
That is my favorite picture ever.
That's cunty shrimp.
It's the little hairs for me. Like, oh.
That's cunty shrimp, and it doesn't say anywhere in there that she's Latina, but in my head she is.
She is.
That's another thing. To me, I was constantly represented in media because I'm delusional. I saw those like pretty white girls that were like cheerleader and prom coming.
You said she's
like,
just like me for
she
real.
no, I was like, me and her are sisters. Like, we're sisters. We're one and the same.
Oh gosh.
Maybe that's why I saw myself in media because I'm delusional. I was up here thinking those white girls were me.
Yeah.
Wait, Cheetah Girls?
I fucking loved Cheetah Girls.
I've never seen Cheetah Girl. I haven't seen a lot. Well, because remember, like, I didn't grow up watching anything else.
Yeah,
and so,
true.
like, the only time that I would see, like, an American movie was when we went to movie theaters. And that's why I was like, The Tooth Fairy.
The Tooth Fairy. I actually like that movie.
Me
so-
too. I saw it twice.
I haven't seen The Tooth Fairy in a long time, but I've definitely seen Cheetah Girls within the past year.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
All I gotta say is that you have to strut like you mean it. Free your mind. It's not enough. Just dream it. Come on. Are you still trying to look for Jenna Ortega being shook?
I love, like,
Let me
no,
see.
because going through your media is my favorite, because every now and then it's, like, a picture like this, and I'm like,
Sure.
That picture right there got that guy to follow me. He's so hot.
wow.
Yeah,
You can't
yeah.
show you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll look for it later.
I'll definitely put it in there. Like
Yeah.
now that I'm thinking about it, she's literally like, she
Shook.
got a tight ponytail. She's like shook.
Oh, God.
It's so good. But Dylan,
Oh, yes.
Oh, Dylan. I love Dylan.
this will tell you the timeline. Today is the day Dylan released new face vibes.
Yeah, her face is
Face card never declined. My God. She looks gorgeous.
She really does.
But here's the thing. Here's when I say that I'm like a radicalist, and people will like, and I say people, and I mean like my friend Sarah. She'll keep me in check, but sometimes I literally get angry when I see like an uproar of popularity for like a white person or like a white queer person.
Oh.
Because I'm like, trans girls have literally been since the dawn of time, and I love Dylan. She is so sweet. But why is this the like one of the first trans girls that's like hit like
Right.
mainstream media?
Right.
She's
Mhm.
white, and that's why. You know, she's very commercial. She's very easily digestible because she talks about the simple things of like, I put a bow in my hair today, and I love it. Like, I love that shit, and I'm so obsessed with like how simple and like gentle some of her topics are.
Mhm.
But there is like trans women out there, specifically Black trans women. They are statistically the most underrepresented, most in danger, and like they literally have no representation in the media basically until Pose happened. But there's like moments like they're literally like, fighting for their lives. They're like living on the streets and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And like I love it. It is like a great like breath of fresh air to be like, oh my God, Dylan got a new face.
Mhm.
Like she got her gender reaffirming surgery that she wanted, and it's so heartwarming to see that. But then at the same time, I feel extremely guilty that I'm putting my effort and my time and my energy into seeing what Dylan's new face looks like when there's like all of these like Black trans women that are just literally so underrepresented and like fighting for their lives out there.
Mhm.
And it makes me feel so like weird because I'm like, yes, a win for the trans community is a win for the trans community, but I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, so I remember when I first started seeing Dylan on my TikTok, there was like mixed reviews on her. They were like, "Oh, thank goodness, like trans representation, like and then there was the other hand of that where it's like great, but also like why, like what you were saying, like it's a white person, and also like there were stories of people being like, I've waited like so many years just to get a consultation for face reform, and then they were like, I guess it pays to be rich and white or stuff like that. So it's like the thing that you were saying, like yes, a win, but then also like other people. So like it was like it was like every other tick that was like
it's just it's this weird of like a win, but then it's also me like trying to stick it to the man, because I've heard so many times of like people being like, why can't you just celebrate the simple wins that we have in life?
I know.
You know, and I'm like,
or it's like, why do you want more? You have one.
I'm like, but it's 2023 and we are so. It's gonna be so funny, like if researchers look at this in 50 years and be like, those people were fucking stupid. But I feel like it's 2023 and people are so self-aware now that why are we still at the point, like I said at the beginning of the episode, saying this is the first blank? Like why in 2023 are we still having this as the first blank?
Yeah. Every time I see one of those, I'm just like, are you kidding?
I know. Or like the Oscar nominations just came out, and they were like, it's been 88 years since
an
Asian was nominated.
Michelle Yeoh, did y'all watch Everything Everywhere All at Once?
I haven't seen it, but I've heard I love her in everything that she's in.
Yeah. I have literally watched it 3 times.
She's literally such
But yeah, I was like 88 years. Oh my god.
It's insane.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of good reviews.
And I bet you money. My government teacher spoke about this. It's funny because my government classmates are right there. But my government teacher spoke about this. We do this thing every single beginning of the class where we talk about this newsletter called the Texas Tribune, and she'll like talk about each section of it. She refers to herself as like a liberal individual, so her ideologies are very progressive. So I have a good time in that class because I'm like, oh, she gets it. But we were talking about the specific story of this this soldier who came into America from, oh God, I feel so stupid because I'm not sure if it's Afghanistan or Iran, but I'm pretty sure it's Afghanistan. Basically, these soldiers missed a plane and had to immigrate to America, and like in a incorrect way, and they were all jailed. Even though they were US soldiers, they were still jailed because they didn't come through the specific immigration laws. And one specific soldier was just recently released from prison, which is amazing. But she did bring up a great point that he wouldn't have been released from prison if he had not gotten all the immense support and exposure that he did. It took like people being like, talk about this, talk about this, talk about this, talk about this, for like the representatives in the Senate to like put effort into releasing this person.
Right.
And this was connected to what I was saying earlier, and I can't see, what were we just talking
about? Where it's like you wanted to stick it to the man because they're like, why can't you just take this win or something like that? And then before that it was what?
I feel like I just stood on a soapbox to go like blank. So I was like,
you said, oh.
You were like, line?
Line. No, I think what I'm trying to say is a lot of these things happening, like specifically with Tim Burton, like what we were saying, do you think he would have done it if he had not gotten all of these people saying, let's do it? Similarly to this soldier who was imprisoned for being an immigrant, but he was employed by the US, you know? It's like all bringing back to that of like, yes, it is, we should have representation in the media because it brings attention to all these things that people would not be talking about, you know? But back to what I said is like, we should, you know, stop trying to ask these people who have gotten it wrong for so many years to fix it, and we need to start giving a voice to new people instead of these old forgotten ideologies, you know? Because like deadass, I thought Tim Burton was dead, and I was okay with that.
I actually thought
he came back.
He said, we gotta make a
show. No, yeah, and then there is a bunch of, I would say specifically Latinx performers who haven't identified as Latinx in the communities because they wanted to become this like larger ideology.
Yeah, I think I've heard of. Who
There
was I
is
talking about the other day?
just talking about Krista Rodriguez, who is a
Yes.
Broadway star. She was in Addams Family, and she played
Oh
Wednesday.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
She played Wednesday in the Addams Family musical, and she is a Latinx individual, but she did not like show that side of her as much. But it's kind of funny now to be like, actually, Wednesday has been played by some Latin women, but they weren't embracing that Latinx quality about her.
Yeah. And we talked about it yesterday. It was like just because back then, like everything had to be so like secretive and stuff, and like people are like, "Why is it so in our face now?" And it's like because it's a little bit safer now to like express or show who you are.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about? I briefly mentioned this like when we were doing our interviews yesterday about like white savior complex. I think a big thing that I want to talk about is because Karen Olivio is a Broadway star. She is the original Nina in The Heights on Broadway. And she was also the original Sparkling Diamond in Moulin Rouge on Broadway, which is crazy because Sparkling Diamond is written as like the most perfect, most beautiful, like stunning character, and she was this Latinx woman who honestly has only played these like raspy, like grounded like roles because she has this like edgy quality to like her demeanor, and she's also Latinx, so they're only seen as like one specific type of way. So it was a huge breakthrough that she got to play the Sparkling Diamond, who is this demure, perfect, beautiful, unattainable woman, right? This was before the pandemic, and she refused to work. There was a specific producer on Broadway who was getting a lot of attention because there was this specific article movement team that started up during the Black Lives Matter movement during 2020 called Dear White American Theater. That's what it was called. Or Dear whatever. I'll say the specific thing. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think I remember hearing about this.
They brought a lot of attention to a specific producer on Broadway. And so Karen Olivio, in protest, said that she will not be returning to Moulin Rouge on Broadway. Which everyone was like, "Oh my god, that's crazy!" Like let's keep going. Like other Broadway stars, like come on, like let's do this. Like let's bring a stop to this specific producer. I will clip the producer's name in the video because I cannot remember his name at the top of my head. Because thank God I want to forget about that man.
Yeah.
But this is why Sutton Foster specifically is now referred to as Sutton Flopster because people don't want to watch her because during this uproar they were like, look what Karen Olivio did, Sutton. Like, if you drop out of Music Man right now, I'm mad because this also producer was working with Music Man as well. They were like, if you drop out of Music Man right now, they will have no choice but to fire him because she's Sutton Foster. Like, she is the it girl on Broadway. Like, she would make such a difference if she dropped out. She saw all of this, similar to what we were saying about like people are giving this information and choose to ignore it. She saw all of this. Even commented on the fact that she thinks that it won't help anyone for her to drop out, stayed in her role, and nothing changed. And all we got was Karen Olivio dropping out of Moulin Rouge on Broadway, and nothing happened. And it was just like a little bit of attention for this specifically. But there's even those moments where this was my original question. Do you think that people of color should be the ones to fight the fight, or should we be pushing our like white allies or white people to make these changes for us?
I was actually just about to quote on that because I was like, girl, what the fuck?
I know.
Because like, even as theater in an industry, it's still a fucking community. It's hell of a community because you know you're always in different shows with like similar people that you've worked with before, and there's always a sense of community everywhere in the world of art in anything. So if you are wanting to see a change within what you're doing in that industry, if you're already working together as a community, why wouldn't you work together as a community to make a change within it?
Yep.
Like, so I say yes, you should be, as a white ally or a white person, if you are really down for the change as you say that you are, as you are showing that you are, especially in an industry that it needs to happen, you should.
Yep. Exactly. And it was just like just so frustrating too, because Music Man has been running since the pandemic like ended in New York. Like Music Man was one of the first Broadway shows to come back, and it is still running, and it has gotten like, I think it just recently closed. Excuse me, I think it just recently closed, but it had like 3 extensions. God. And in that time, the Broadway show called Strange Loop won Best Musical at the Tony Awards, and it closed, I kid you not even a year of being on Broadway. And it was literally, and it was an entirely black cast, and it was based around a black queer character being the male lead of the show. And it closed. But Music Man was happy and running, you know, and I love Funny Girl, but it also perpetuates that issue that Funny Girl is still going on and has gotten extensions and has actually like rewarded people who have been an issue, like Leah Michelle.
Yeah.
But Strange Loop closed. There was that other musical that won Best Score, Best Direction, something like that, and it performed at the Tony Awards, and it was I'll clip it here, but it was one of the most emotional performances ever. And within a couple of weeks after that, it also closed, and it was being led by a black woman, and like by a largely black ensemble. But then, like I said, there's still being given an opportunity for like Music Man and Funny Girl for these shows to like be out there, and it sucks because it makes me like have this disdain towards Broadway as I'm growing up, because I'm like, I don't know if I want to be a part of that.
Yeah,
I
think about
why
that
would
too.
I? Because I'm just like perpetuating of like, oh my god, this is the holy grail of where I want to be, but there's so many issues in it, and I know I'm only 22 now, but I still have this feeling of like, oh, I'm tired of fighting, you know? Like, why do I have to be the first for this? Why do I have to be the voice for this? Like, why can't somebody else do that for me? And I get to, you know, like enjoy everything after that.
Yeah. I think about that too, because there's the same problem happening with film and television. We didn't like have cable like when I was like growing up, whatever. So we would get like the live channels that like, you know, were on air.
Or like antenna, you have to like
you gotta like move it every time. Yeah. So
wire hanger on the top of the TV.
But our TV would get ABC, and ABC had, this makes me so mad. So there was a show. It was called Grand Hotel. It had all Latinx actors in it, and it was directed by a Latinx woman. She's super, I don't know her name, but she's super, I love her so much.
Look it up later, send it to me.
I will.
Put it in.
Yeah. It's called Grand Hotel. It ran for 1 season and they canceled it. And I was like, oh my God, what the fuck? Like, why? They brought up another Hispanic show called Baker and the Beauty. It was centered around Latinx actors as well. Had a LGBTQIA woman or girl in there, because she was like growing up. She was like just finding out that she was gay and all this stuff, like ideas in there as well. Got canceled after 1 season again, right after Grand Hotel just did. And so like this whole uproar came from the director of Grand Hotel, talking about ABC like canceling all Latinx shows just running after 1 season. So like this whole uproar came up the same way within the Tony Awards with Black people. Same thing about Latinx with ABC. I don't know. That just got brought up with me. So that also kind of like irks me. I'm like, why does it have to do this if they were like really good shows? You know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's because people find discomfort in the things that they're not relating to, and a lot of the producers in Hollywood, on Broadway, and in a lot of the artistic industries are still filled with white people.
Yeah, exactly.
And like, no matter, I was saying this all the time. What was it? Once on This Island, back in 18, 17, won the Tony Award for Best Revival. And it was a full person of color cast that performed that day. But the people that walked up to go accept the award was nothing but white people, because it was the director, the producer, the blah, 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 the blah, blah, blah. It was a full cast of white people behind it. And it's so performative because they'll put all of these people of color on stage, which lovely. Like, that's great. Like, as a person of color who's a performer, I'm like, whoa, love that.
Yeah.
But there's like people of color out there that work behind the table, you
As
know?
well, yeah.
And they're not getting that representation either. And also, these white people are still benefiting off of people of color.
Yeah.
And it goes back to these like minstrel shows too, of like, you know, these white people were gaining wealth off of making fun of, taking away from people of color and their stories. You know, this has been a constant thing, and it's still happening. And like, it's not going to change unless like the producers and the directors change.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm bringing it all the way back to, like, we should stop trying to like have these old directors fix all the problems. Like, just fucking fire them, get rid of them.
Mhm.
You know, like, let's just give a new to everything else.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know about all this.
I think about that too, but it's also I'm like, I know how you think that you don't want to be the first person. I'm like, I want to be the first person, because that will guide the path that we need to go on. That will provide the change that we need to have. And I'm like, if nobody else is gonna do it, I'm going to.
And like,
you know?
I used to be that way.
Yeah.
You know, like, I definitely used to be that way. And I hate to say it, but literally, I think our college program genuinely has like kind of just whipped me into a place where I'm like, okay, well, obviously, being the first person to speak up about certain things doesn't get you very far.
Yeah.
I think that's another reason why it's honestly a traumatic response, you know, to be like, I don't know if I want to do that, because I'm like, well, do I need to be playing the white man's game to get successful? Because I'm literally graduating in a couple of months, and I'm going to be involved in all of those decisions that are being made in wherever they are being made. And it almost makes me feel like I can't participate in certain environments that I have dreamed about being a part of because of like the events that have happened to me already,
Right.
and how the events and things that have happened to other performers of color and other queer people. Because I'm just like, where do I go from here? You know?
Yeah, I think that's a valid response.
Yeah.
I mean, you've been through a lot, so I mean, because you know, so it's completely valid.
Yeah, it's weird because I'm just like, I still feel that like person in me that's like, no, fuck it, like just do it. But then there is this kind of like instance of like, I don't want to be blacklisted the moment I get into the industry. But then I'm like, well, then what am I doing all of this for in the first place, if not saying everything that needs to be said?
Yeah.
You know, so it's like this weird choice that you have to make.
Yeah.
And I'm still kind of just elaborating on how. Does that ever cross y'all's mind?
I guess not yet.
Yeah.
The way that I think about it, especially from like almost being an activist position, is like, just because something doesn't go right the first time and it continues to like say like that doesn't mean, because if you really truly love it and you believe in that and you want to see it, you won't stop until it's done.
Yeah.
And that definitely takes a lot out of you mentally, and that's completely understandable. I mean, that's just how it is.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Or like you try and go at different angles and stuff just to see what works and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just
Okay, I'll get the door.
I think like because like I feel like within my form of activism, we've talked about this, that I'm just so like like punching my fist about it. You know what I mean? Like, there's no nonsense type shit. And I feel like that's the only way I can be as an activist, to feel true to myself. Because lately, having to be like having this diplomatic answer to try and educate people has never felt like me. You know, it never has. And I feel like that's almost the direction that you have to go if you want to be a performer. To be like, oh, I have to be well liked by the white people, and I have to play the white man's game very well. And I think that's what it is. I don't know if I want to play the white man's game, and that is the only way to be successful in this industry, unless you're breaking all these barriers.
Mm.
And like me talking on this podcast is not gonna get some. Maybe it might. I don't know. Like fingers crossed. But like us talking on this podcast is not gonna get rid of said producer that Karen Olivia wanted to get rid of. And so I'm like,
we're here for you, girl.
We're here for you, girl. Do we must we play the white man's game to be the representation that we want to see in the media? Because all these other people did. Like there's interviews upon interviews of like Sofia Vergara, like being like, oh yeah, I endured this and this, but it was okay because I'm here now. Being like, you did what? Like you had to go through what? And even Rita Morano, like talking about it too. Like she's still kicking and screaming. And she talks about how she doesn't have trust in it. Like there was an interview recently where she was like, I've never been a part of a project where I've trusted people, like genuinely, just because she felt like she had to be on guard the whole time. And so it makes me think about all of this. I'm like, do I want to be part of that industry? Do I want to have to play the white man's game to be successful so I can be other people's representation in the media? What do you guys think about that?
Do you want to start?
Yeah, I think it goes back to like you mentioned this a little bit where it's like that's not me, that's not how like I would go about it. Like it just doesn't feel genuine to me. So if I'm ever doing anything and it just doesn't feel genuine, then I'll just this is so like broad and vague, but I'll like try and go at it at a different angle and stuff, just because it's like everyone's different and everybody gets through different ways, and like I want to stay true to myself and also not play the white man's game, and so like I will try different techniques to like.
Do you have a specific example?
No, because I've never had to like experience that. You know what I mean? Like I've heard of other stories and like I've heard of people and their stories and what they had to go through and stuff. But that's only like hearing stories. It's different going through it yourself, because like it's like the thing where it's like, oh yeah, if I were ever in a burning building or if I were ever done this, I would do this. But it's like different when it's actually in the moment.
happening.
Exactly. So it's like, oh, I could say that like, oh, I won't do this and blah 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 blah. But in the moment, I might do this or I might do that and stuff like that. But it's like, in the moment, you'll still feel like, oh, this isn't. And if it is, like, just step away and like, you know what I mean? Because it's like I don't ever want to like, because it took me a while to like get to this point where it's like I don't want to change who I am or like try to be be someone else who's not me just to get other people to like me or to like get a role or to like be seen this way or whatever. And it's like I did that in my entire life, and I was like, I'm at a point where I was like, no, this is me, and exactly. Yeah. So yeah. I don't want to play games no more. So yeah,
I think like that too. Because like I haven't like been able to be like my true self until like I came here to where I was able to be who I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And nobody's gonna fucking take that away from me.
Exactly.
Like what? No.
Yeah.
But I think about that too. This is very Aries of me. But I'm like hella competitive. I'm like, if you're gonna do that to me, I'm gonna do it right back to you.
Yeah.
So the way I kind of think about it is like, I'm gonna kind of beat them at their own game.
Exactly.
The way that they're doing it, I'm gonna do it too.
Exactly.
But I might do it better. 2 times better.
Exactly.
Or like
because, trying to one up them.
Yeah, the same kind of way.
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
How do you? This is a literal personal question. Okay. Maybe you guys might have like a solution for this.
Okay.
But I feel like I've already been like labeled as the aggressive activist, and people have already invalidated the way that I feel just because they don't want to feel attacked when I open my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys know how to combat that, or how I might combat that, or how I might get away from that?
I think that that says more about them than it does you.
Right.
And it's like if we make that known where it's like, oh well, like they don't want to hear the actual truth, and it's like maybe like that where it's like instead of like, yeah, like they see me this way and blah 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 blah. It's like no, like let's flip the coin. Like that says more about them than it does me. Like clearly, like they're preaching all this stuff, but they don't actually like want to deal with it and stuff.
Yeah, it's the same thing about like if you didn't bring it up,
Mhm.
would they think of you
Yeah,
that way?
exactly.
It's just because you brought up a situation
Mhm.
that you know was not correct.
Yeah.
You know that was done maliciously,
Mhm.
with a bad ideology,
Mhm.
and they just didn't want to hear
Yeah.
it. They didn't want to hear it. They
Yeah.
knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
didn't want to hear it.
And I guess like you stepped up and like you said something about it, which you should have done. And it's like, if anybody has any negative response to you doing that, it's like, again, that says a lot more about them than it does you. Like the fact that they are labeling you as this type of person. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess going about combating that,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's definitely hard.
Yeah.
I would say, to kind of like do that, because
Yeah.
you also don't want to not be yourself.
Yeah. Or like combating it, do you mean like trying to get them to like, because I'm like, if that's the type of person they are, then I don't think you should associate with them anymore like that.
Yeah.
Like, so like combating it, mean like, oh, like try to get them to understand that where like you can go like with them again, or like in what sense?
I think like more specifically being like on the council of OSBS, I guess is like a specific example of like sometimes I feel like specifically last year,
yeah, oh my god,
people did not want to listen to the council, and I feel like it was a huge part because they didn't want to listen to me. I feel like it had nothing to do with like the two of you, you know. But like I said, I was already labeled as this like aggressive activist.
Yeah.
Where people felt like I was attacking them, even though I never said people's names. If the shoe fucking fits.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. I don't feel like that's much of an issue this year.
Yeah.
Unless you think about people who are not students, who certain individuals who are not students but involved in the program, if you know what I mean. You know, kind of feeling that way about me. And feeling that way because there was another student that like I encountered my freshman year who did a lot, speaking up against a lot, and nobody listened to him because he was taking this aggressive stance on it, of being like this no nonsense, no bullshit kind of like there's no excuse for you to behave this way.
Yeah.
And all of his feelings were invalidated because people didn't want to listen to him because they felt like he was attacking them personally.
Right.
The moment he spoke about the issues that white people have created, if that makes sense.
You know, I get that.
Yeah.
So I think like, yes, like I do know that like it reflects heavy on how that person behaves and believes, but it always seems like those specific types of people have the most notoriety, have the most power.
Yeah.
And like I said, I think I'm just tired of trying to have to explain myself and being like, I'm not the bad guy here. Like, genuinely, I was not trying to attack you as a person. I was pointing out something that you have done to me and multiple individuals.
Yeah.
And now I'm
the bad guy.
The bad guy.
Yeah.
And I think that's another thing that I don't want to go to in the industry, because I know that like I am going to go into the industry. Like, don't get me wrong. This is not me coming out being like, because if I stop performing, I might unalive myself. Right. But I do think that there might be a couple of years where I'm gonna have to behave a certain way.
Yeah.
Which sucks. And I think that's what's keeping me from wanting to participate.
Look, you know what? I low-key think like that too. I'm like, I'm gonna have to go through all of this in order to be where I want to be.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I can't think of anything around that or what I can do to prevent that, because nobody has done it.
Exactly.
You know? So like
we're gonna break that mold.
Yeah.
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 Maybe we're gonna have to be the first.
That's what I'm saying.
It stinks. But this episode is already an hour long, and we said it was gonna be 45 minutes long. But I think this is a great conversation.
Yeah,
and honestly, what the fuck are y'all talking about? Y'all don't want to watch the podcast.
True.
I just no. The thing that I was talking about was like, not like, because I thought about this after we started the episode. That's why there was like points where I was like, because I was thinking about like not 45 to an hour as in like us talking. I just mean like we can talk, and if it's like doesn't have to do with like the topic that we're discussing, we can just cut that part out.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
You know
like
what I mean?
this, right?
Yeah, like this right here. That's what I meant. Because I was like, I was like, maybe there's like parts where we're just like talking, or like, but like we can keep talking.
Mhm.
It just like cutting the
Yeah,
episode.
no, I can
that
get
You know what I
makes
mean?
sense,
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
then, but also the appeal of podcasts is that they do feel like the most genuine and raw form of media
Yeah, true.
because there isn't as
Mm.
much editing in them.
True.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know
I see what
what?
you mean.
Just disregard everything that I just said.
I don't
We're
know.
gonna have however long
Yeah.
we want.
I don't
You're
know,
gonna
it's- I
keep
mean, I
me
get it.
walking to the door.
Maybe an hour and 50 minutes, as a couple of our past episodes have been, is a bit much.
Mhm.
But I do think we're already coming to a conclusion in this episode,
Yeah.
which is nice.
Yeah.
And it's only an hour and
Yeah.
7 minutes.
That's good.
So there's a guy coming. Anyways, okay.
And we
Well,
got any final
back.
thoughts?
Any thoughts that we're done? This podcast again has proven time and time again that I just need people to talk to.
Yeah. No.
And it
And you mentioned this yesterday, how like, yeah, we have our open discussions for other people, but like the council, it's so fun to just like talk
Talk.
amongst
It is.
ourselves.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're very close knit.
Also, next episode, there might be a few new faces.
Maybe.
Boing.
Possibly.
Yeah.
It is a definite possibility.
Yeah.
Do you guys have what's your favorite song right now?
Oh, hold on, wait.
Do you have a favorite song?
Yeah, you go first.
I don't really have a favorite one, but literally any song on SZA's new
SZA's-
album, SOS. Girl.
My past can't escape me. My pussy precedes me. Yeah.
And you right.
Yeah.
And I live by that.
What's your favorite song right now?
Yeah.
I asked that question and I was like, bitch, you don't have a fucking answer for that. So I don't know why you're asking that question. Because my most recent liked goes from like rap music to Ella Fitzgerald's to classical music to classical scores from Disney movies to a rap song again to 90s rap to blah blah blah. I literally at this current moment in my life do not have a specific genre that I listen to.
Period.
Like today I was literally listening, there's a song from Aladdin, the live action movie, that's a part of the score. Like I guess it's like one of the background music moments. That was playing and I was like, oh, lovely. The literal next song to play after that was a song with Mariah Carey in it, and I forget who the person is. I'll show you guys. But it was just like so funny. I was like, and then it was like, and I was like,
You said, what's happening?
Oh yeah. But I okay. So my current favorite song is any R&B song or any classical piece.
Period. What about you, Edgar?
Yeah. Okay. The one that I've been listening to all day today is one by Mr. RJ Flood. It's his song "Disgust." It's really good.
What is it on?
It's
I
on iTunes.
had no idea
yeah.
you had a song.
I found his songs last year,
Oh.
like a year ago today, because it was during As You Like It, and it's this one. I love
Stop
the
playing it,
song.
we're gonna have to pay him.
Sorry, I will pay him. I will give you
no,
money.
no free promos
No
here.
free promos.
You
RJ.
bleep that entire thing up. But
And
yeah,
I am
that's-
going to.
I really do like it. It's good.
Fine.
Heart emoji to that man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Some person suggested that we keep things lighthearted sometimes.
I was like, when did I say this?
No, so it's so it's just like media, like fun things that we can.
Yeah.
No, I like that.
You guys have to watch Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Oh,
you
I
We're
do.
gonna. That's
I
gonna be
need
an
to.
episode. Is just us reacting.
If you guys need a Showtime login so that you guys can watch
I
it,
might.
Yeah, I might too.
let me know because that I'm not kidding you is
I do want to see
Yeah,
it.
the
me
most
too. I heard
it's
complex
really-
movie ever
I love
because it is the stupidest fucking thing I've ever seen. But it is also the most deep and meaningful and thoughtful piece of art that I've ever seen.
that. See, and I love movies like that.
Same.
Like, I'm not kidding you. It's so fucking ridiculous. There's I don't
Like
want to
Puss in Boots?
I don't want to like. I don't want. I don't want to like.
Representation?
I don't want. Puss in Boots is our representation. I don't know why you're so upset.
No, Puss in Boots and the Last Wish is it's
What's
the
his name?
best.
I can't believe you watched Puss in
Antonio-
Boots. Like,
Antonio Banderas.
I can't believe you watched Puss in Boots multiple times.
I went to
but
see it
have
6 times in theaters.
But have refused to watch everything ever.
Not refused. I just
That's what
I
never
didn't
had
know where.
time.
Yeah, or where to see it.
Anyway,
I will go see Puss
so
in Boots.
Asian
with
women
you.
just don't matter to you, I guess, is what you're saying to me. But there is a moment. I guess this doesn't like. There is a moment where there is a rock and another rock sitting at the end of a cliff, and they are having a complete silent conversation. 2 rocks, and one of them has googly eyes on. And tell me why I was crying. Like, if that just explains anything to you about that specific movie, is it like it's so stupid but so meaningful and thoughtful?
Yeah.
Anyways,
No, I heard
please go watch
great-
Everything Everywhere All
great
at
reviews
Once.
about
Michelle
it.
Yeoh is amazing.
Yeah.
Free promo for her though.
Yeah.
Stephanie, what
And
is her name?
Perseverance.
They have 3 Oscar nomination categories.
Yeah.
Yes, they did.
Or like, oh no, I think it's like 5
I
because
thought, yeah, I
there's
was like, I thought
also
it was.
the movie itself
Mhm.
is also being nominated for stuff. But
Mhm.
Yeah,
please go watch
yeah.
that fucking movie. It's way past overdue for people to be watching it. I'm just kidding. I literally watched it barely on Christmas, so I'm talking massive shit.
That shit.
I'm talking massive shit, but it's okay. Yeah. You guys want one?
Maybe.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for watching The Dip.
That was the dip. That was wait.
That was
the
a scoop.
Okay, well, I love you guys. Thank you for listening.
Thanks. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye bye.